Welcome to all. We are discussing about the dimensions of child development. When we discuss about the dimensions of child development, a major aspect is psychosocial development of children. In today's topic, we are going to discuss about psychosocial development of children, implications for education. In this video, we will discuss how the psychosocial development affects the development of children, the stages of psychosocial development put forward by Erik Erikson, the educational implication of psychosocial development of children. After watching this video, you will be able to develop understanding about the psychosocial development of children. You will develop understanding about Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, and you will be able to examine the educational implication of psychosocial development of children. Erik Erikson was born in 1902 in Germany. Developmental psychologist, we can call him as a developmental psychologist, psychoanalyst, and one of Sigmund Freud's contemporaries. He was so impressed by the theories put forward by Sigmund Freud, which is termed as psychosexual development. Erikson focused on the socio-cultural aspect, and in 1959 he developed his 8 stages of psychosocial development. So in this video we are going to elaborate that 8 stages of psychosocial development. Erikson's theory centered on psychosocial development rather than psychosexual development as did by Sigmund Freud. Each stage involves a psychological crisis of 2 opposing emotional forces. You may be thinking that why this theory is known as psychosocial. It consists of 2 terms, psycho as well as social. Psycho relates to the mind, whereas social relates to the society or the environment. So what he wants to emphasize or focus is that the child's development is not only internal, it is influenced by external forces also. And in this psychological crisis, why he used the term crisis as used by Sigmund Freud? Because this crisis is that if a child is able to overcome the crisis that confronted each stage, he is able to manage the rest of the stages and become a healthy personality. So here comes the importance how a child can be nurtured in a healthy manner. So if we want to develop the child in a healthy manner, there are different stages that the child has to pass on. Erikson's theory is based on what he calls the epigenetic principle. What do we mean by this epigenetic principle is that all of us develop through an unfolding of our personality in predetermined stages, and that our environment and surrounding culture influence how we progress through these stages. So there are different stages that a child has to go on. And when we look at Erikson's theory, he classified the various stages. The thing is that he postulates the 5 stages put forward by Sigmund Freud, as well as he added 3 more stages that denotes the adulthood stage. And let me see What are the age, the crisis that develop, and what are the virtue and the negative outcome. And here we can see that the age that denotes the child's age, the crisis that denotes that when going through each stage, if a child is not able to achieve success, there occurs two types of negative outcome. More than the negative outcome, the negative aspects, that is malignancies and maladaptation. If a child successfully completed, the child is able to gain virtue, which represents the third column. And here, the virtue represents the basic strengths. And this basic strength is needed for the ego to resolve the later stages of life. Regarding the crisis, I've told you that there are two outcomes that is coming if the child is not able to manage well, that is malignancies and maladaptation. Malignancies means the too much of the negative aspect of a task and too little of the positive aspect. Whereas maladaptation denotes too much positive aspect and too little of a negative aspect of a task. We have already discussed virtue and the negative outcome, that if a child is not able to manage well each stage, there will be a negative outcome in each stage. Let me go through each stage. This crisis, the first stage, is known as trust versus mistrust, and it occurs around the first year of a child's life. And here we can see that what is happening in this stage, trust versus mistrust. We know that the child is always in search of the caregiver. When the child needs milk or when the child needs anything, the child symbolizes through the crying. So listening to crying, if the caregiver is providing what the child needs at the right time and at the immediate time, the child will develop a sense of trust towards the caregiver, and later on it reflects among the society. Suppose the parents may be busy, they may not be listening the crying of the child, they neglected the crying of the child. What will happen? The child will develop a sense of mistrust. So later on, what will happen? The child will develop fear and suspicion towards society, towards others. So in later years, we can see there are some people who are so fear and suspicion about others. But those whose needs are, or the needs of the child is resolved at the right time, they develop warmth and comfort and physical closeness they will develop. So this is all about the first stage, and when the child is able to enter this stage in a successful manner, there develop a virtue of hope. If the child develops more mistrust, what is happening? The negative outcome of suspicion or fear. Let me see the second stage, that is autonomy versus shame and doubt. And this stage normally occurs when the child is about 18 months to 3 years. What is this autonomy versus shame and doubt denotes? There we can see that some children may be ready to do dressing on their own. If they are not wearing in a right way, they will tell that they will do it. I will wear the shoes, I will wear the dress. What it shows? The child wants to become autonomy, and the child wants to become the control of the physical skills. And here comes the important event, that is toilet training. That event started during this stage, and if the parents managed this toilet training in a successful manner, that is a great achievement for the child. If the parents are not training in a successful way regarding the toilet training, what will happen? They will happen shame and doubt in their mind. So here the relationship is with the parents, not with the outside members. The child's energy is directed towards mastering physical skills such as walking, grasping, and muscular control. What the child needs is the control over the motor skills, and the child learns self-control. But if the child doesn't learn this self-control, what will happen? The child will develop shame, doubt, impulsivity, or compulsion if not handled well. What is happening in the trust mistrust stage? We can go back. If the child is managed in this stage well, so the child will develop consistent environment, the child's basic needs met and responding quickly to the needs of the child, and the child is able to play and talk, and the child is given the food, clothes, warmth and sleep at the right time. So a positive personality is developing. Whereas in the case of the mistrust, what is happening? Receiving inconsistent care, receive less love and attention, fear and suspicion toward the world. So we have discussed the first two stages, and in the second stage, if the child is able to manage well, the virtue is the sense of personal will. The child will develop a personal will, and thereby it leads to an autonomous state. If it is not managed well, what is happening? The lack of self-esteem. So the child will think that I am not able to do anything in a perfectful manner. So the child will have doubt, shame in their mind, which leads to lack of self-esteem in the minds of children. So it is the duty of the parents not to frighten or fear the child when they are trying to do something. Don't tell that you don't do, I will do for you everything. Such child will not develop autonomous quality. They are not able to do anything on their own in their later stages. So what is the duty of the parents? The parents has to make the child to do on their own way and their own style. Don't compel that you have to do like in this manner. Coming to the third stage, or we can term the stage as initiative versus guilt, and this stage occurs between the years 3 to 5 years of age. Let me see what are the characteristics of this stage. There what is happening is that we can see that the most important event is independence, and the relationship is with family members. The child continues to become more assertive in exploration, discovery, adventure and play. The child shows too much force in this stage, causing feelings of guilt if it is not handled properly. So here the child wants to become independent. So some kind of initiative the child is taking. For example, while playing game, the child will plan the game. They will frame the rules. So all the initiative the child is taking. When they are taking such type of initiative, if the parents or the teachers, they are not allowing them to do such type of initiative, what will develop? They will think that whatever they take the initiative, it is ending in failure. So some kind of guilt develop in the mind of the child. So failure to resolve this conflict leads to ruthlessness and inhibition. Let me see what are the virtue and the negative outcome of this stage. The virtue is a purpose developed in the mind of the child, And if the stage is not managed well, what is the negative outcome? Inadequacy. The child feels that whatever I did, it is ending in failure. So some kind of inadequacy, the guilt sense develops. Coming to the next stage, that is industry versus inferiority. And it occurs the age between 5 to 12 years. And here what we can see is that the most important thing, that is the virtue what they are developing is competence or pride, and the negative outcome is inferiority. When this stage occurs, we know that they are at the stage of the early adolescence. So they start to work hard to get good marks or to do some kind of projects in an effective way. So what the duty of the parents is that the important event is the school, and the relationship is with teachers, friends and neighborhood. Here the child learns to deal with new skills and develop a sense of achievement and accomplishment. And we know that whenever their hard work is not appreciated, what will happen? A type of inferiority develops in the minds of the child. So failure to do so leads to a sense of inferiority, failure and incompetence. So what is important is that we have to appreciate the hard work. Whether it is not up to the level, we have to appreciate the hard work of the adolescents. When coming to the next stage, we are discussing about identity versus role confusion. And normally it occurs between the age 12 to 18 years. We know that this crisis, identity crisis, occurs during the adolescent stage. The adolescents are always confronted with the question, who am I? If the adolescent is able to achieve the self-worth or the self-esteem of one's own status, that is a great achievement. Whether am I a child? No. Am I an adult? No. So they are in the verge between, the conflict between the childhood stage as well as the adulthood stage. It is a transition period for the adolescents. So if the stage is managed well, what is developing? Fidelity will develop. If the stage is not managed well, they will create some, or they will develop rebellious nature. They will think that through this rebellious nature only they will be accepted by others. So there will be always a kind of role confusion. Here it is necessary for creating a sense of identity development among the adolescents. So here what we can see is that the important event is social relationship and self-identity. Here the relationship is happening from the immediate environment, that is family, to the peer group. The peer influence is increasing at this stage, and they are always thinking about their body image. It plays a huge role, and they have confusion about one's role in life. And failure to resolve the identity crisis leads to maldevelopment of the ego. Sometimes they may become a juvenile delinquent. So that's the reason we can see this juvenile delinquency is increasing. Next we will discuss the later stages. We can see that this stage we can call it as intimacy versus isolation. And this stage occurs between the ages 18 to 40 years. And what is this intimacy denotes? They try to become close to their family members, to the society. They try to express their love to others. The basic virtue of this stage is love, and the negative outcome is loneliness or isolation. We can see that if they are not getting that much intimacy towards others, what will happen? they will always try to isolate from others. If they are not loved by others in the society, they want to keep away from society. They want to be alone in the room. So such type of loneliness will develop. What are the other characteristics of this stage? We will discuss one by one. Here we can see that the important event is parenting. They are entering for that stage, and the relationship is with friends, lovers and work connections. And in this stage, the individual must develop intimate relationship through work and social life. Not only at home. In their workplace, they should develop that intimacy, and failure to make connections lead to exclusivity and isolation. So here also, the person who is entering towards the adults, they should develop the love relationship with others. They should learn to behave in a loving manner. Coming to the next stage, that is generativity versus stagnation, and it develops between the ages 40 to 65 years. What is the speciality of this age is that they are ready to contribute to society or create their individuality, their identity through the process of reproduction. So what is happening? They try to nurture children in their life. So some kind of sense of care they want to develop, which is the virtue. If they are not able to do, there is the negative outcome of unproductive. What are the other characteristics of this age? We can see that the most important event, that is the retirement of their age. And their relationship is with children and community. Each adult must find a way to satisfy, support and contribute to society. They want to guide the next generation. They want to contribute something to the society in a creative manner. And they may think what to do with the extra time. If they fail, it leads to rejectivity. Coming to the last stage, that is the 8th stage, we can see that it is termed as ego integrity versus despair. And it mostly occurs above 65 years. And here, what is happening is that the adult think of their earlier life, their earlier workplace. If they develop a sense of satisfaction, what they contribute to society, they develop a virtue of wisdom. If they think that they couldn't do much, if they were given a second chance, they can do more. Then what happened? A negative outcome, that is dissatisfaction, develop. So what is happening is that the most important event is reflect on the events and experiences of one's lifetime. The relationship they want to widen to all the human beings, and adults feel a sense of fulfillment about life and accept death as an unavoidable reality. If they develop a sense of satisfaction and they accept death, there will be no fear of death. If they develop dissatisfaction, it leads to disdain. So here we can see some kind of maladaptation and malignancies that is developing among the stages. During the stage of, I have told you that maladaptation means the too much of the positive and too little of the negative of the task, whereas malignancy is the too much of the negative and too little of the positive of a task. And in the trust versus mistrust stage, what is happening? Sensory distortion is the maladaptation and the malignancy is withdrawal. During the autonomy versus shame stage, impulsivity or shameless or willfulness will be the maladaptation and compulsion is the malignancy. In the initiative versus guilt, ruthlessness is the maladaptation and inhibition is the malignancy. In the industry versus inferiority, narrow virtuosity is the maladaptation and inertia is the malignancy. Coming to the next stage, that is identity versus role confusion, maladaptation is fanaticism, malignancy is repudiation. Coming to the next stage, intimacy versus isolation, promiscuity is the maladaptation and malignancy is the exclusivity. Coming to the generativity versus stagnation, overextension is the maladaptation and malignancy is rejectivity. Coming to the last stage, integrity versus despair, the maladaptation is presumption and malignancy is the disdain. Yes, we have discussed up to this part the various stages, the maladaptation and malignancy. Thinking of the educational implications, we can say that what is the role of the teacher and parents here? During each stage, the parents as well as the teacher should try to nurture the virtue of each stages and reduce the negative outcome of each stage. Help the children to take initiative, to work hard, appreciate them, try to develop self-esteem in the minds of the learner, and they will have a balanced and healthy personality in their later stages in life so that they can contribute effectively to society.